Well, hello, Divi Nation. Welcome to a brand new Divi use case live stream, where each week we show you how to add new design and functionality to your Divi websites. And today in this tutorial, in this live stream, we're going to be showing you how you can design custom image overlays in Divi. Don't forget to check the video description for a link to the blog post that goes along with this, along with some other information. And without wasting any time, let's jump in and get started. So welcome everyone. Please feel free to give a shout out in the chat there, in the video chat. Let us know where you're from, and also quickly give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and my stream is coming in for you guys. I always like to check that first. All right, hello Henrik from Denmark. And Dryland Web, good evening from Germany. Welcome. Hopefully you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, you guys. And of course, we will, as always, try to answer any questions you have. So feel free to reach out in the chat as we go along today. And as we have more trickling in, I'm just going to continue to just kind of say hi and welcome everyone. All right, Jan can hear me. Thanks, Jan. All right, we are good to go. Troy from Texas. All right. We are in the same state, Texas. It's hot out there, or over here. But it's getting cooler, right? All right, so hello from Canada. We have James, Alberto, welcome. And Pamela, good morning from New Zealand. And Grant, hello, hello. All right, so we're from all over this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, wherever you are. All right, Jan's from Florida. Nice to meet you guys. All right, so if you're just joining us, this is our weekly Divi use case live stream. And where each week we show you how to add new design and functionality to your Divi websites. Today, we're going to be showing you how to design some custom image overlays in Divi. And this is going to be done with, mostly these Divi built-in options to create all the design we need to do. And then with a little bit of CSS on the back end, we're going to add those cool hover effects to those image overlays. So this should give you, kind of open the door for a lot of design possibilities. Just to give you a preview, I should say, of what's to come. Here are our 3 images examples here. The first one, when I hover over it, you'll see the nice image overlay with the, little micro interaction there with the heading text moving down, button text moving upward, the body text staying centered. And all of that is becoming visible on hover. The button on this one stays visible, and then you have a nice image zoom in the background there on hover, along with the other heading and body text animation there. And this one kind of has an image overlay by default, and it adds the button and kind of moves it upward. And in addition to the image zoom there, as a little image rotation as well for a unique effect. Excuse me. So that's where we're going. Really cool, really simple once you know how to use Divi's position options, and organize the content how you want. But let's jump in and get started. All right, so we're going to get started with a brand new page using the Divi Builder on the front end. I'm going to add a new 3-column row here. And I'm not going to add any modules yet. because I want to set up my section and my row and my column here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my section settings, and I'm going to paste in this background color. So grab it. I'm going to have that purple background there. Move this up. I always wondered if you guys like to have your settings to the right side or to the left, or if you like to kind of anchor it to the right or the left. I'm just curious. Feel free to share. Something I've always wondered what other people do. I kind of always keep it to the right, not sure why. But of course, I like to keep it open because if I have something on the left I'm designing, I like to move it over. But there's some, custom setups you can do by default if you want. All right. So I'm adding my background color. I think that's it, actually. I do want to save that out. I'm real simple. We just need a background color for the section. And I think I'm just going to keep the row settings the same, or excuse me, as the default. But I do want to jump in the row settings just to target my column. This first column, column 1. And it's going to be the column that we're going to be adding our image overlays. So the column here you can think of as the main container of all the elements that are going to make up our image overlay, including the image itself. So this is important because this will be the element that will hover over to trigger the hover elements. So instead of hovering over the image per se, you will kind of technically be hovering over the image as well, but really it's the column we're hovering over to initiate all of those hover effects. So it is going to be, I'm going to need to add a custom CSS class. We'll do this throughout because we're going to target some of these elements with a little custom CSS in our code module. So whenever we add a CSS class, just know that we're needing to target that later on. Let's jump in the comments real quick, or the chat. I want to see. Okay, so Tom is right side, just like me. Troy is right. Chris Henning is the left side. So you like to have it on the left, and Ali is on the left. Interesting. So we're pretty much 50-50. All right, so let's see. I do want to add a CSS class here, and the CSS class we're going to add is called ET Overflow Container. I'm just adding the ET there. It just stands for Elegant Themes, and it just kind of keeps this class from conflicting with any other classes you may have in your theme or your plugins or whatever. Just tries to make it a little bit more unique. So ET Overflow Container lets me know that that's the main container that we're going to be adding our overflow elements to. Oh, I got to jump back to that same column 1 there, and under my advanced options, I'm going to go to visibility, and I'm going to hide the overflow on the horizontal and vertical, because I'm going to eventually, maybe not in this first example, but I'm going to be adding some scaling to that image, and it's going to scale like by 120%. So it's going to kind of extend past the column, and it will overflow the column, and you will see that unless you hide it. So I'm going to hide that. That's why I'm doing that now. All right, so that takes care of that. I'm going to add the image now to that column. So we have our container ready. Now we're going to add our main image, and this will be the image that will add the main image will add our overflow effects to. All right, so actually, yeah, image module, And let me go ahead and just paste in, let's see. Might use the same image, paste it in here. Okay. And this image is roughly 800 pixels by 1050 pixels. So it is more of a portrait layout instead of a landscape. And this works well for this design. If you're going to be using landscape, longer horizontally images, you're going to probably run into some overlap on these hover elements because you just don't have enough vertical space. But that can be adjusted as well. All right, so there's my image. And let's go ahead and jump over to the design settings. Under my spacing, I'm going to take out the default margin. You can't really see it there, but for all rows that have a default gutter width of anything other than 1, you're going to have some default bottom margin on each of those modules. I'm just going to take that out. And I'm going to add a CSS class to my image. Again, we need to target that later on. Call it ET overlay image. Make sure it is exactly that, because the code will not work if you don't have that class exactly right. And of course, you can always refer to the blog post to get those classes as well if you can't really see it on the video. The image overlay color is next, so that takes care of our image. And right now, the image will be the only thing really that's going to stay with the default, relative position. Everything else, we're going to add an absolute position, because what that will do is make the element hover over the image within the container. I'll show you what I'm talking about. First, let's add a divider. This will be what we'll use to add the color that will overlay the entire image. I don't really need to show the divider because I'm really using it for its background. So I'm going to go to the background here. Well, you're not going to be able to really see anything. Well, you may. Let me just add the background color now, but we'll need to change the position. Okay, so there's my background color. You can see there. And now I'm going to jump over to my advanced tab and go to my position options. And I'm going to give it an absolute position. That's going to make it kind of jump up to the top by default. And it's already going to span the full width because it's a block element. But I want to make sure and give it a 100% height and width just to be sure. That way it spans the full height and width of the column. And since the image is actually determining the height of the column, and the image is wide enough that it's going to fill the column, really the height and width of the column should equal the height and width of the image. So when I add, if I go to my divider settings, my width is already 100%. Let's do height 100% as well. And you can see now it overlays the entire image. Real simple. That height 100% will not work by default on elements that don't have that absolute position, because in order for that height of a 100%, it's going to depend on the actual container having a set height. That's just a little tip there. If that's confusing, forget about it. It's not pertinent to this. All right, so there we go. My height and width is set. And let's go over to my advanced tab and let's give my CSS class, which is going to be ET overlay item. So this will be kind of the main CSS class we'll add to all of our overlay items. This is good to know you know, if you want to build more on this or add additional ones on your image later on. So ET overlay item, that's basically going to tell the that element, or in the CSS, that's going to hide that element initially and show it on hover, which is what we want. Okay, so I'm going to save that out, and I'm going to jump and open up my, let's see, you can't really see it. Let me pull up my settings here. See the, I like to remind people that we have this layers modal here. You can open that up. It really does help in the design process. I like to keep it open, and that way I can easily click on those elements without having to hover over them or anything like that. All right, so right now you'll see that I have in this first column, I have my image module and then my divider right under it. But it's a good idea to go ahead and start labeling these things. I'm just going to call this divider overlay color. Let's increase the width so you can actually see the name. All right, there you go. All right, so now we're going to add our overlay heading text. So I'm just going to add a new module. It's going to be a text module. And I'm going to give it an H2 header. I'm just going to call it coaching. And you can see it there. It doesn't quite hover over the image yet because it doesn't have the absolute position, but we'll change that. Under the design settings, let's go ahead and change the text alignment to center. And let's change the text color to light. Under my heading text, let's go ahead and target the H2 that we have and give it a custom font, Cormorant, Garamond, or whatever that's called. And then the heading to font weight, let's make it bold. The text size, let's go ahead and increase it to 40 pixels. You might want to tone that down if you have a larger header or something. Let's go to our sizing options. And we want to make sure that width is 100%, but we're going to set a max width of 85%. And we're going to make sure and set the, well, actually we can set the module alignment, but we're actually going to position it absolutely, so we really don't need to do that. Let's go over to our position options under the Advanced tab, and let's set it to absolute. That'll make sure it floats where we want it to over our element there. And we want to give it the location, not just top left, let's do top center there. And we're also going to give it, let me show you there's a vertical offset. And since it's at the top center, that offset will be added to that top portion. I'm going to bring it down by 10%. 10% of the width of the container that it's in, I believe. All right. And we're going to actually pull that down more with the custom CSS on hover. So it's just going to kind of move down a little bit. But initially we want it away from the top a little. So I'm adding the vertical offset of 10%. The CSS class we need for this is, we're going to do the same one we added to the divider or the color or the overlay color. It's going to be ET overlay item because it's one of the items we're adding. But I'm going to add another one. And to add another one, it's just a space. Make sure you can see. can see this. So it's ET. Oh, I'm glad I zoomed in. I had a typo there. So it's ET overlay item and then space and then move down. And that's just a little CSS class that I'm going to use to move that element downward on hover. All right, so once that's added, save it. And let's create our body text. All right. Let's go ahead and I'm actually going to just duplicate, or I need to change the, what's it called? The label here to overlay heading. So we know what that one is. And let's duplicate it, change that name to overlay body. And then I'm going to open the settings for that one. And you can see that you can't really see the duplicate because it's also in the absolute position, hovering over that same location. So it needs to first go and change the position. We want the body text for this one to be, let's see. Right dead in the center there. Okay. And then I'm going to go over to my content there and, oh, let me go back. Yes. Okay. So because it has that centered location, there is no offset to update because it's going to be in the center. And then I need to change my text. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to paste in some default text here. And I know I've been ignoring you in the chat there. So after this one, I'm going to come over and make sure you don't have any questions at this point. So there's my body text. It's got the centered position. So that's good. But if you remember, I added 2 classes to that previous text module that I duplicated. So I need to go and update that. I don't want this one to move, so I'm going to take out the move down class and just keep the ET overlay item class. All right. Now let's create that button. Oh, nope. Let's check the chat. All right. So Jan says, how can I see this on computer? My phone is small SE for my lovely but small hands. I am not sure. It might have been in regards to another question. I apologize. I'm a little confused. Jan, if you could just re-comment and clarify. Oh, Marcel says he works with the settings modal to the left side on a 4K. Awesome. Let's see. Domi asks, do you know how to do 3D buttons? Or a button with the hover effect or something like that? Yes. And there actually, if you haven't done so, do a quick search on in our blog for 3D buttons or 3D hover effects, something along those lines. The trick is to add a perspective to the column that your button sits in, and then when you rotate it with the transform options, you can get that hover effect. But don't have the time to go through that now, but that's a good question. Mendel's Photography says, hi, hello. Awesome. I think we're good on questions, guys. Let me go ahead and make sure I didn't miss anyone. Okay. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and continue on. The last one we need to add to this image overlay design is the button. So I'm going to add a button here, and first thing we'll do is give it the absolute position so we'll know what we're working with as far as where it is on the column. Let's give it the absolute position. It's going to by default go to the top left. We want it at the bottom center. All right, easy enough. Let's go ahead and add that vertical offset as well, 10%. And you can see it's a little bit higher. Doesn't really seem to be equal to that one. And that's because it has that default margin that I forgot to take out. So I'm going to take that out now. Default bottom margin. All right, so I got my position set. The CSS class we're going to add to this one is the ET overlay item, but we want to move it up. All right, so add those two classes there. Remember, we added the move down class to the top heading. We're going to add move up to this button in addition to the ET overlay item. And I do want to, this is of course optional, but I like my button to be a little bit wider. So I'm going to give it a min width on the main element. I'm going to give it a min width of 15 ems. All right, and then I'm going to, that kind of looks weird, I know, but I'm going to go back to my design tab and I'm going to customize it. I'm going to make sure my alignment is centered. There you go. And for my button design, I'm going to decrease the font size to 14 pixels. Change my button color to white. And I'm going to add a custom background color. It's that blue there. I'm going to take out the border. I don't need it. And I'm going to need to add a little bit of button spacing, or sorry, letter spacing, just to spread out those letters a bit. I'm going to do a 0.1 em, or 0.1 em. I like to base the button text design, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The length units to the em instead of the like a pixel or something, because it allows you to change the size of the text and everything else kind of changes with it. So that's why I do that. And the default padding on a button is actually set in the em length unit. So button font weight, let's go bold. That is not what I wanted. Where is it? There it is. Bold. And let's make it all caps. And now I'm going to do my custom padding. I'm going to do 0.8 em for the top and bottom padding. And then I'm just going to take out the padding on the right and left, so I have more room for, text. All right, so that looks good. Got my button how I want it. I'm going to save it. And instead of going on and doing the other three designs, which will be a lot quicker because we're just going to be duplicating, but I want to add the code module so we can check out the result of this one. So under here, I'm just going to add in this column a code module. It won't take up any space, but this will be where I add my custom CSS. And I'm going to paste it in here. All right. And it may look like a lot, but it's actually not. And let me just kind of zoom in here. If I can, scroll down. You can see that it starts off with the at media all in with this is a media query. Basically, it's saying that all of this CSS is only going to happen on desktop view. And when it goes to tablet and phone, excuse me, it's going to not have the hover effects. It's just going to show all of those items by default. That way you don't have to worry about clicking on the, it's just better user experience in my opinion to do it this way. But if you want to keep those hover effects on mobile, you can just take it out of that media query. So the first one, of course, this code is commented, so it shows you what it does. Basically, this first one makes sure you can see those elements, even though we're hiding them initially. We can see them when we're actually building on the front end. That's what that one does. So you really don't need to change that. The ET overlay item, this is that one we added to all of our overlay elements. It's basically going to hide it initially. And then on hover, later on, we're going to show it. So right here, the opacity is 0. It's going to hide all those elements with that class by default. And then here on this one, we're going to bring that opacity up to 1 on when we hover over the container, which is our column. All right, so that's what that's doing. And all the rest of these are adding new styles to the image overlays on hover. Let me exit out of there. You can see the full code on the blog post there, but just to give you another example, this one here, when hovering over the container, which is the column, this class ET overlay image is oh, we didn't add that one yet. Sorry, let's go to this one. This is the move up. Remember we added that move up to that overlay item? Well, that's going to move up by using a bottom margin of 15%. That's all we're doing to those elements, and a top margin of 10% on the move down. So that's all that's happening there. Real simple. It's not a lot of stuff. We may circle back to this code once we add the rest of the design elements. All right. How do I escape my zoom here? Sorry, I accidentally got caught in the zoom. I can't escape the zoom. All right. Let's save it out. All right. There we go. Let's go back to the code. All right, so there's my code. I'm going to save it out, and I'm going to exit the Visual Builder so we can see it on a live page to see what this does. And of course, it doesn't work. Let's see why. Let's go back to the code here. All right, let's go back to my column container. It's always great to mess up on a live stream. I love it. But I usually can figure out what the problem is. Probably has something to do with the classes not being named right. It's usually one of the signs. All right. Yeah, something's wrong with this code, I think. Okay, I'm going to save it out, and I'm going to refresh. Sometimes that does it. Awesome. Okay. Still not working. We'll have to circle back and check out these classes to make sure they're right. All right, that's right. Hold on. That's right. So what I'm doing now is just checking all my CSS classes to make sure that they are correct. And then make sure my code module looks good. All right, that's right. Okay. All right, so let me go back to my column here. That is correct. Now I'm going to copy and paste my code again, just to make sure. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'll have to circle back to that and figure out why it's not doing what I need it to do at the moment. But let's see. One more thing I'm going to check. I'm just going to see. All right. Okay. But for some reason, the opacity is not showing on these elements. Okay. All right, so I'm going to make sure maybe if I give this an important save it out. Okay, something's not up. Okay, I'm going to circle back. We're going to continue on, and it's probably something simple, but let's go ahead and check my. All right, that looks good. All right, we're going to go on to our next design. So sorry for that pause. Hope you're still with me. All right, so misspelled class under column CSS, is that it? All right. Yes, I'm so sorry. If you're just joining us, I had a minor hiccup. I probably rushed and misnamed the class that I couldn't find. So we're coming back to that, and I'm just going to continue on with my design here. And we will find it out, hopefully, when we come to an end. So basically, to create our next design, we're going to actually go to this column here, and we're going to duplicate it. So I'm going to first delete these two because we don't need it. And I'm going to duplicate this column twice. That way it carries over those other elements. And I'm going to open up my layers tab. It's over here, my layers modal. And then I'm going to go to my columns here, and I'm going to delete that extra code module that it carried over because I don't need that. All right. And I'm going to pull that one down so it doesn't show. Okay. And delete this one as well. Okay, so now yes, I see my mistake, everyone. I am so sorry. Yes, thank you. Who was it? I don't know who it was. I just read it. Tom, I think. Thank you. It is the column. I don't know why I named it overflow instead of overlay. That is my fault. Brain cramp. Overlay container. Sorry. That's it. Okay, let's change them for all the columns just so we have it. So let this be a lesson. Make sure and name your classes correctly. Okay. And when you have an error, a lot of times it's because of your class. Okay. Or your ID. Overlay. All right, real quick, save. Save that out. Let's go check the live. All right, so now we've got, finally, now we've got the effect we want. Okay, and we have it on all three. And now all we need to do is make the tweaks. Quickly, for this one, I'm just going to move the, right now I have a lot of these modules with the default margin at the bottom. I don't need that. So I think I do anyway. So I'm just going to go to the margin, the bottom margin. This one does have the margin bottom set to 0. So I'm just going to extend that, extend margin. And it's, yeah. It's one of those days, guys. One of those days. All right. I'll extend it later. Okay. So for this next design, all we're really going to do is move this button to the center. So I'm going to do that in the position options. So move that to the center. All right, you can see it there. It's overlapping the other centered element. And I'm going to take out the class. So right now it has the custom CSS class, both of these. I don't want to move it and I don't want to hide it. So I'm going to let it show at all times. And so I'm going to take out both of those classes. And let's go ahead and go to my layers view here in the second column. Let's target our, not our button here. Let's do the overlay body. So that's that one that's centered there. We want that overlay body to be at the bottom. That's right. So let's give it a position of, or a location of bottom center. And it has the vertical offset already. So we're good there. And let's go to my image. Let's give it a new image. I'm going to actually paste in this one I have, just so you can see just what it looks like with a different image. I don't I think it's probably going to be a little shorter, but it's pretty comparable to the same dimensions. Main thing is that it's going to be longer than it is wide. So, all right, so there you go. Let's go ahead and give it a different background for my overlay color. So I'm going to go to my overlay color, which was our divider, if you remember. And I'm going to change that color to, I'm just going to paste this in. You can get this from the blog if you need. It's just that blue color with a slight transparency so you can see the image behind it. And let's go ahead and change the button. We want that button background, a comparable blue, pink. And it's in my recent, so I'm just going to pull that pink, and it's actually transparent, so I'm going to pull that up. There you go. All right, so that looks good. Now for my image, one thing I didn't add, I'm going to go back to my image. I'm going to add another CSS class to this one because I want to add that zoom effect. And it's actually going to be accomplished through this class. Make sure I name it correctly this time. ET scale. And all that's going to do is scale it up a bit with the custom CSS. So, all right, so that's correct. Let's go ahead and save that. And so now you can see actually in the preview here, or actually in the builder, you can see that image zooming. All right. The text at the bottom isn't moving though, so we'll probably need to update that one. Let's go ahead and add that move up class to that bottom body text. And there you go, it moves up. It probably moves up a little too much, but we can always tweak the offset if we need. Okay. Let's go to this one here, and instead of, let's actually first, I want to do the button overlay color. So let's go to this column, third column, go to my overlay color, and let's change that. See, now I got to move it. Change the background color to I think I have it in my recents. Let me just do it that way. So background gradient this time. And for this color, I'm going to use a, I think it's the blue one on the left. And on the right, I'm going to do the pink with a semi-transparency there. And that way I can kind of see my image. I think I want to maybe tone it down a little bit. Actually, no, let's just keep it that way. Let's do what we could do is do the start position. So I'm going to change that to 25%. Just kind of make it darker at the top and bottom a bit, and change the end position to 75. All right. That looks good. Let's change the like, for example, you see how this heading text and the body text are separate here? We can add the heading to the body text so it kind of moves together. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to save out my color there. Oh, one thing I did forget. So the overlay color is, we want it to show initially. So I'm going to change or take out that CSS class that it has, the ET overlay item, so that now it'll remain visible by default without hovering. And so all I need to do here is I'm going to basically give this one an H2 so we don't have to have them separate. So there you go. And once I have that H2 in that body text, I can delete this one. And now I just need to locate that one. Right now it is set to center, which is what I want. Actually, I don't need to move it, so we're good. The only thing I need to add now is to the image. So the main image has a CSS class of ET overlay image, but I want to add an additional one that we haven't added yet, and that's ET rotate. And that is going to kind of rotate the image and scale it as well. You can't really rotate the image without scaling it up a bit, because you'll kind of, it'll rotate and then you'll see like, some gaps over here, depending on your rotation, because it's rotating the image outside of kind of the square container. So it helps to kind of, scale it as you rotate. I'm going to save that out and refresh. And oh, as you can see, I need to have my one of these to stay visible. Let's do the title or the body text to stay visible. So to do that, let's just go to the overlay body settings there and take out that custom CSS class ET overlay item. That'll make it visible. All right, refresh, and there it is. Now it's got the cool hover effect. Awesome. Okay, last minute questions. I know I went a little long. Hopefully you stuck with me. All right, so we got Tom, thanks. It happens to all of us. Yes, I appreciate that. A quick question from Nicole. Where can I find WooCommerce product page, WooCommerce product page pre-made design layouts? So on we have a few on our blog. If you want to check those out. We also have some free theme builder packs on our blog. So if you search theme builder pack, you should find some with some free downloads. And that comes with a complete pack of all the templates, including a product page template. But I would definitely search the blog. If any of you guys want a link to that, it might help him out. Let's see, next question. Let's see. Oh, Marcel has answered it. Thank you for that. New NJ Ambassador says it looks nice. I appreciate that. Yes, Ekemini, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name, but Robert, I hope I can watch this later. You can watch this video later. Just make sure and fast forward it whenever I forgot to add the CSS class. It'll be in our YouTube channel and also our Facebook page. All right. Oh, good question. Marcel asked if the button hover option is still possible too. So yes, so this design, these overlay elements, you can still add, all the built-in Divi options or hover effects still apply to the individual elements. For example, if I wanted to add an additional hover state for the button, once I'm hovering over the image, I can do that, no problem. Same thing goes with the text as well. We just needed the custom CSS class to change all of those elements when hovering over the actual container, which was the column. Good question. All right. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I think it's time for me to bring it to a close. All right. All right, guys. Well, I definitely appreciate you watching. That's all I got for this video this week. Be sure to check out to subscribe to our blog newsletter, our YouTube channel, and like us on Facebook. And make sure to click to get those notifications. That way we can let you know every single time we have something new for you. And we'll be back here next Tuesday for another Divi use case live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And also look forward to our next live stream, which will be Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is the WP Weekly Roundup. And don't forget, you can check out the video description, not only for a link to the blog post that goes along with this video, but also for more information on how you can contribute your own unique content to our blog. So go ahead and check that out. And thanks again. And we'll see you guys in our next video.